is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on Roku, on X, on YouTube and Facebook. We are everywhere here with the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Of course, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. That's RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33. Save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. It is a fantastic day here in the city of El Paso. 3 total snowflakes on my car. A proverbial blizzard for the city of El Paso. I know other areas of town were able to get a bunch of snow, and that's fine and dandy. If you're up in the Northeast and the New England areas, wherever it is that you may be living, and you have to deal with snow all the time, I understand why you would be like, oh, this guy and he wants snow or whatever. We don't get snow here. So I was thoroughly disappointed that we have not gotten any snow here in the city of El Paso. But you know what? It's okay. I will be fine. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. A lot of stuff that I want to get to today. Of course, we've got some stuff going on in the NFL. My guy, Tommy Carranza, already tuned in. Got a decent amount of numbers, what I'm looking at right now, on the various channels that we are on. But I wanted to start here, and I want to start with the college football playoff because we have game 1 of the semifinals happening today, Notre Dame versus Penn State. And I have been loud and more than likely obnoxious as well in my pure, unadulterated lack of understanding, for lack of a better term, of why Notre Dame gets any love at all. Like again, it's something that really and genuinely shocks me as to how we can consistently look at Notre Dame and say, yeah, this is a playoff team. And what they've done is they've shut me the hell up. And I am fine and dandy with it. Like I have no problems being wrong. I've been loud wrong on Notre Dame this year. But I feel like it's got to catch up, right? Like eventually it has to catch up to Notre Dame. Linda McGrath saying, good morning. Great job last night. If you missed it, I was on another show on the Roku channel with National Stream of Sports. It's really awesome being able to collaborate with a bunch of different people and get the different mindsets that some people have and the different way that they view sports. It was really awesome to not be a part of an echo chamber. A lot of different opinions with Mac and everyone that was a part of it. Sonia, Keith, Bo, and James, along with myself. It was a fantastic time. I'm looking forward to being a part of that again here in the future as well. So if you get a chance, download Roku, download the National Streaming Sports app, and check out all the amazing things that they have. As a matter of fact, on Friday, I might be making a guest appearance as well on the Prim and Proper Sports Network. So we can talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of sports. But getting back to Notre Dame, I'm going to employ what I've been doing all year long that seems to work, right? Whenever I want a team to win, they find a way to lose. And that's what I think is going to happen now. And maybe me saying it out loud is going to ruin the vibes and ruin the magic, maybe the dark magic, that I've been working here. But I honestly think that Notre Dame can win this game. Last night, if you tuned into the show, you would have heard a bunch of us saying, like, look, it's a little difficult to predict this college football playoff because there's not one great team here, right? Like, I don't trust the University of Texas. I don't trust Penn State. I don't trust Notre Dame. Maybe, just maybe, Ryan Day and Ohio State have found a path here to winning their national championship. And I had to think about that, right? Because a lot of the concept was Notre Dame, this is the easiest path for Notre Dame to win their national championship. It's also the easiest path for Ohio State to win a national championship. It's the easiest path for Texas to win a national championship. I get that Penn State's here. Penn State, the beneficiary of the schedule, right? We got to go up against SMU, who didn't belong. We've got to go up against Boise State, who didn't belong. Medusa Designs saying, Buenos dias, Tip. Buenos dias to you, Medusa Designs. I want to know, did you actually get snow on your side of town? Because I see other people posting up pictures of snow in El Paso, and I'm sitting over here like, is there a cloche covering the far east side of El Paso? And I couldn't think of a more pretentious or douchey word to say than cloche covering the far east side of El Paso, because I didn't get any snow at all. Three flakes maybe on the window of my Mustang, and I still don't believe that there were snowflakes. I just told my kids they were snowflakes, so that way they could act like they actually got snow. I have to plan a trip out of state to see snow. It's insane. But I believe that this is the easiest route for any of these teams outside of James Franklin and Penn State to win the national championship. I don't think that Penn State has the horses, right? Again, they were the beneficiary of being the team that got SMU and Boise State. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, I can't trust this team. And how is Notre Dame, who outside of losing that weird random game to Northern Illinois, that random loss, because as we know, football's going to football. How is Notre Dame a 1-point favorite over Penn State? Am I missing something? Like genuinely, am I missing something? Am I unable to comprehend or to see that Penn State's route to get here wasn't the most difficult? Right? Like, is there something wrong with me? Right? I'm starting to think this. I'm starting to second guess myself. I'm starting to think all these things. Is there something wrong with me and how I'm internalizing football at the moment? And I'm going to be a jerk and say no. Linda McGrath saying Notre Dame and Michigan are historic. Michigan came back to the top last year and played better than expected this year. It is Notre Dame's turn. I agree with that. I don't know if it's their turn. I was thinking about this yesterday because it was brought up that the last time Notre Dame was in a national championship, the last time Notre Dame won a national championship was 1988. I was 3 years old, about to be 4 years old. You talk about a team living off of past glory, right? It's Notre Dame. That's always been my issue with Notre Dame. I get that it's weird saying that from a Dallas Cowboys fan, but they're basically the Spider-Man meme. They're pointing at each other. You're me, I'm you. That's Notre Dame. But Notre Dame consistently got the benefit of the doubt of we're Notre Dame. We're such a brand. And I get it. Brand recognition is a huge thing in sports, and it has to be a huge thing in sports. But this feels like just because there aren't any real contenders, or we just got so beat down that it's going to be Bama and Georgia as the only contenders. Maybe that's where I'm at right now, right? We got beat down for so long that it was only going to be these teams, that now that it's not these teams, it feels sacrilegious. It feels like we have no clue what's going on here. A great point brought up last night as well, that if Texas didn't make the switch over to the SEC, there wouldn't be an SEC team in the Final Four this year, which is mind-blowing, right? Because we're so used to the SEC being so much better than everyone else. I like the independent schedule that Notre Dame is able to do, right? Just win whatever games are on your schedule, schedule a bunch of cupcakes, get yourself, a little bit of a challenge with like the USCs and the Michigans and teams like that. But get your 6 wins that are needed by beating a bunch of teams that just don't matter. Get bowl eligible, and then hopefully you win those tough adjacent games that you've scheduled on your schedule. I love that mindset. I've said it for years that the University of Texas El Paso should do the same thing. Go independent, get beat up by everybody for a year and a half or so, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, make that money. Get all that money that you can get from those money games on TV by losing to Bama, like New Mexico State did a few years ago in November. Just get that money, load up that money, get on TV, and then start scheduling out the Stephen F. Austins, the Seoul Ross State Universities, teams like that, to just start padding up your stats. Get bowl eligible, because that's all people care about is bowl eligibility, despite the fact that bowl games mean nothing. Notre Dame, Penn State. Notre Dame, a 1-point favorite over Penn State. That is, to me, insulting. Notre Dame should win that game rather handily. At least I believe that it should go that route. Want to give a shout out to everyone that is tuned in right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Thank you so much to National Streaming Sports for being a part of what it is that we do here with the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Tommy Canassa saying they'd still lose. More than likely. Again, like any team that I find myself believing in is either on the struggle bus for the entirety of the game, or they've already just gotten blown out in the first quarter. We'll talk more. Actually, I guess I might as well just do it here on this show, because I'm not going to have the ability to address the national audience with it on tomorrow's show. But Texas, Ohio State. Ohio State is a 5-point favorite over Texas. I said it on Monday, and I'll say it again today. A better team than Arizona State beats Texas. Arizona State, again, to me, didn't belong there. They shouldn't have been seated where they were seated at. A better team than Arizona State beats Texas the way that Texas played against Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. I believe Ohio State is going to handle Texas. Quinn Ewers, a very, very inconsistent quarterback, consistently inconsistent. Most of the time, you're used to him having the tale of two halves. This last game against Arizona State, it was a tale of each quarter. A different guy in each one of the quarters. You cannot play like that and expect to win. Maybe, just maybe, they see that Quinn Ewers doesn't have it. They bring in Arch Manning, and they get the magic that we saw Alabama get whenever they had to bench Jalen Hurts and bring in Tua Tagovailoa, right? Like, maybe, just maybe, Texas can pull something like that off. But I feel like Ohio State is far more superior to Texas. And it sounds like sacrilege, once again, being in Texas, saying that I believe Texas is going to lose. But I don't even think this game is going to be close. It's a 5-point spread. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-touchdown game at the end of the day. I'm taking Ohio State with this one. It feels like it's a collision course, right? Ohio State, Notre Dame, who you got in that matchup in the college football championship game? It just feels like it's supposed to be that way. It's just supposed to be that way, because Notre Dame was questioned all year long after losing to Northern Illinois, as they should have been questioned all year long, losing to Northern Illinois. Texas, what are they going to do? Only losses on the schedule this year were to Georgia. Notre Dame beats Georgia. Transitive property would let you know, maybe, just maybe, Notre Dame beats Texas, right? If the hypothetical is they match up. Ohio State, to me, the way they handled Oregon means they've got a chip on their shoulder. They've got something to prove. And I am a firm believer in teams that are built that way, where I've got something to prove. I didn't like this team coming into our conference and winning our conference in their first year. Beating us is like beating the dog crap out of us in our conference. I feel like Ohio State has something to prove. So I'm thinking the national championship game, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Ohio State Buckeyes collision course, and we shall see how it goes from there. Remember, everybody, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. That's RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33 and save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. I have just got a new package that is going to be coming my way, and I will show you all just how amazing it works. I love the videos, like those cleaning videos. I get lost in those loops on TikTok, on Instagram, of the people cleaning the carpets and stuff like that. I love videos like that. I don't know why. I'm a very OCD type of person. I don't like a lot of filthy things. You'll notice the stuff behind me is going to stay in that position until I get an OCD kick and start moving a bunch of things around. I have books that I'm going to be putting in the bookshelf because it looks weird to have a bookshelf without any books. Looks like I'm an uncultured swine, which I kind of am, but I don't want anyone to know it. Medusa Design saying, being from Texas, I want to go for Texas, but I know Ohio State is going to take it all. It just feels that way, right? Like, out of the teams that are left, you have questions over Penn State. The third best team in the Big Ten, easiest schedule to get here. There's questions about Notre Dame. There shouldn't be, but whenever you lose to Northern Illinois, and I get it was at the beginning of the season, but whenever you lose to a Northern Illinois, it means that you can possibly lose to someone else. Texas, the 2 losses against Georgia were not a good look. Struggling against Arizona State. Again, any other team than Arizona State probably beats Texas. Texas gets lucky against Arizona State, gets here to Ohio State. Ohio State handles their business. It feels like it is, written in the stars that Ohio State is going to win this game. But we shall see. Checking out some of the other stuff that we got here in the world of sports. I do see a bit of an issue coming up, a bit of a conundrum for the NFL, where they have addressed my guy Will Heron saying McTip, McTippy Tip, and obviously saying giving his salutations to my guy Tommy Cananza over in the YouTube channel as well. Now, the NFL seems to have themselves a little bit of an issue here with what's going to happen. Because I hate the scheduling issues that the NFL comes up with being able to just seed a 14-win team as your 5th seed team and putting them on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams now the 4 seed, getting themselves a home game, but is it really going to be a home game? We know that there's wildfires blazing in LA. People telling me that the reason the wildfires happened is because the city of LA was booing Hulk Hogan. Don't know much about that, brother, but maybe it was Hulk Hogan who set flames to the city of LA after getting booed by the Los Angeles crowd on one of the wrestling shows that was happening over there in LA. I think it was a debut of Raw on Netflix. But there is the possibility that the NFL is going to have to move this game due to the wildfires to Arizona, effectively getting rid of the home field advantage for the LA Rams. My question to the NFL is, why not just give this game to Minnesota? They're a 14-win team. They took to the last game of the season where, yes, they got their ass handed to them. They took to the last game of the season to get seeded in the 5th seed. The only time a 14-win team has not won their division. This is what the Minnesota Vikings are going to get as a reward for an amazing season, is just go on the road. So if you're having this issue, it's a call of nature right now, right? We can say this is an act of God, that even God doesn't want the Rams to host a home playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings. Just put this damn game in Minnesota, and we'll say, you know what, Rams? We'll make it up to you. If you can win this game, we'll make it up to you some way, somehow. Maybe you split the revenues, because at the end of the day, that's all people care about. But Jesus, man, like it seems like it would be the easiest thing here for the NFL, instead of saying, yeah, just go to Arizona, which is a neutral site. Why not just go to Minnesota? It seems like it would be better to just go to Minnesota. Will Heron saying, a source told him that we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. I probably should have said that like better news way, right? Like, according to my sources, we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. Now back to you. I think that would be the hardest thing for me, to keep a straight face reading the teleprompter That's why I would be no good at news. Will Heron, a great news guy. Congratulations once again, Will, on getting to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl going to be in New Orleans. Who's it going to be? One thing for sure is we know it's not going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Ha ha, nerds. That's what you get. The Cincinnati Bengals fan base has been through a lot, right? Like they've been through just historically bad seasons. Will Heron having to remind me, or the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, but we knew that anyway, right? Like we've had 30 years of we know this team isn't going to make it to a Super Bowl. We've known that for quite some time. But the Cincinnati Bengals got red hot at the exact wrong time to get red hot. They almost made it, right? Like you're within that grasp of being able to get to the playoffs, and you just need help from other teams. And one of the teams you needed help from was the Kansas City Chiefs. And we spoke about this yesterday. Mac was extremely, extremely passionate about this. That the Kansas City Chiefs did a disservice to their fans by resting their starters. And there's a petition that goes out there by Cincinnati Bengals fans that the NFL should change some of the rulings that's going on here to allow the Cincinnati Bengals to get into the playoffs because the Chiefs tanked on purpose. The Chiefs tanked on purpose. They enter Sunday's game 15 wins, 1 loss. 15 wins, 1 loss. A week earlier, 2 weeks earlier, actually, I guess a week earlier, they had locked up the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And the question was, if you're going to bench your players, aren't you doing a disservice to the fans? And my retort to that has to be, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs fan base and your team is 15-1, and you know that more than likely they're going to sit everybody, it's because your team is really good. Your team is the 2-time defending undisputed world champions. You really don't have much to be mad about, right? Like the fan base kind of knows, okay, we trust what Andy Reid is going to decide. We trust that this team is going to get healthy at the right time. And you already know my mindset, y'all. I don't want to risk the possibility of any of my players getting hurt in a meaningless game. That was, for the Kansas City Chiefs, a meaningless game. For the Cincinnati Bengals, for the Denver Broncos, and for the Miami Dolphins, that game had a ton of meaning. But for the team that had to be a part of it, the other side of the coin, that game was about as meaningless as me hanging out downtown asking people for advice, because I ain't going to take it. It is super, super ridiculous to sit back and think to ourselves, oh man, they're doing a disservice to their fan base when they've won 2 straight Super Bowls and they're the best team in the NFL this year. Like there's not any way possible that we can look at the Kansas City Chiefs and think to ourselves, this team is scared. And that right there, Tommy Cananza, I will disagree with. About Patrick Mahomes didn't want to see Joe Burrow. I will never understand this when it comes to greatness, right? Because I guess I've never been great. But I will never understand this when it comes to greatness of why, and I'm guilty of it too, we just don't appreciate it in the moment. The only person out there that would say that they would take Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback over Patrick Mahomes is someone that is either A, Joe Burrow fan, or B, someone that really hates Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has the records. Patrick Mahomes has the rings. Patrick Mahomes has less talent on his team, yet somehow, some way, is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. The Cheetah, voted this year in the NFL's top 100, the best player in the NFL, leaves the Kansas City Chiefs, and all they do is win 2 straight Super Bowls with guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Xavier Worthy now as their receivers. I get it, Tommy. I know what you're saying. No, I didn't say that. I know. I got you. But it's been a thing that I've been seeing out on social media. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are scared of the Cincinnati Bengals. Their one loss in the playoffs outside of the Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era is to the Cincinnati Bengals. One. They've won 3 Super Bowls in that time frame. I don't think there's any issues with the Kansas City Chiefs at all. Sorry, I just got a message here. I love whenever I get messages in the middle of the show. All right. I love when people mess with me too. Medusa Design saying stupid Jerry Jones will probably make that choice. Ha 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 ha. Jerry Jones would choose Cooper Rush over Patrick Mahomes. Mireya Reyes saying everyone has a boogeyman. I agree. I firmly do agree that, yes, everyone has a boogeyman. Tommy Carranza saying the Bengals have their number in the playoffs, one loss or not. Nobody else has done it. Then let's say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do, because the only difference with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is who's their quarterback right now, right? And I will say this. Everyone has a boogeyman, right? Who was the New England Patriots boogeyman? Like, what was it, the New York Jets or the New York Giants, rather? Was it Eli Manning the only 2 times he wins a game in the playoffs? He takes his team to the Super Bowl and they beat the Patriots, right? So maybe that's their boogeyman. The Buffalo Bills own the regular season record against the Kansas City Chiefs. They own it. Like it's not even close. It is not even close. Mireya Reyes saying that Peyton Manning was their boogeyman. I don't think you can say that. 6-2, right? Like six championships to 2 championships, and Peyton Manning had to go to a different team to win that second championship. Maybe, like, it was fun games, right? Like, you can never count either team out. But the New England Patriots didn't necessarily have a boogeyman. I don't know if you can really say that the one time they lose 3 years ago, the one time they lost in the playoffs to this team creates that team's boogeyman. I don't even think you can say they have that team's number. Again, the Buffalo Bills have had the Kansas City Chiefs number in the regular season in recent memory. Mireya saying Eli Manning. I'll go with that one. Yes, I will. Eli Manning must just be, I think about this all the time. And it's a weird thing for me to think about, right? But you're Tom Brady. You're a 7-time Super Bowl champion. They put that graphic up whenever they show him in the booth during one of the games, right? It's like Kevin Burkhardt at NFL on Fox, Tom Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion. And it just seems unreal. But you're Tom Brady, a 7-time Super Bowl champion, and you have to think to yourself, I lost to Eli Manning twice. And every single one of us, except for the people who might be listening right now that are New York Giants fans, will sit back and be like, Eli Manning, without those 2 Super Bowl wins, probably not a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. But he has done what no one else has been able to do except for Nick Foles. Think about that. Tom Brady's downfall in the Super Bowl is Nick Foles and Eli Manning. Tom Brady. I know there's a stat out there. I have to try to remember who it is. Like the one person who constantly struck out Barry Bonds was like just some no-name pitcher. And Barry Bonds is like, yeah, I was never able to get to him. Like I wish I can get to him. I just wasn't able to get to him. Tommy Carranza saying Tom Brady is still haunted by Eli. I get, yeah, like there's no way with as competitive. I spoke about this, I think, last week, right? The Michael Jordan weird competitiveness that he has. Tom Brady's got a bit of that too, right? Dude sacrificed his entire family to play one more season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just wasn't good, right? Like the team wasn't good built around him. It has to be in his head. He wakes up in the morning. I guarantee there's like a dartboard with Eli Manning's face on it, and he just launches lasers into that damn dartboard. like Tom. It would not surprise me one bit if that's what Tom Brady was doing every single morning. And even if he admitted to it, I think all of us would be like, "Yeah, we see it." Like you're Tom Brady. You would definitely be doing something like that. Medusa Design saying those are glitches, not boogeymen. And that's what I'm like. That's what I'm thinking about, right? Like maybe Kansas City is just one of those teams that doesn't have to show their best all the time. And it sounds like sacrilege to people that love sports because we know that you've got to play hard all the time, right? Like we're fans and we're always thinking to ourselves, you gotta play to win the game, right? And you gotta give it 100% and blah 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 blah. But if you're a 3-time Super Bowl champion, you've won the last 2 Super Bowls, what do you have to prove in the regular season? I don't think we've ever questioned a team nearly as much as we have questioned the Kansas City Chiefs when they were 15-1. Yeah, the games weren't pretty. They don't have to be. Again, big Fast and Furious fan, right? Like me being the nerd that I am. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or by a mile. A win is a win. And that's what Kansas City is doing. Doesn't matter if you win by a blocked field goal or a last second doink off the thing. You can be good or lucky, but what if you're both? And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs are right now. They're both. And I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, when we talk about boogeymen, is the NFL's boogeyman. I saw yesterday the NFL came out with not the actual schedule, but who the rivals are going to be in the upcoming season, right? And for the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to get the NFC North, so we're going to get the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers. Oh my. We're also going to get the AFC West. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. And I thought to myself, that Chiefs game, automatic L. I don't care where it's played at. It's an automatic L. Dallas will find a way to lose that game because the Kansas City Chiefs are the NFL's boogeyman. The Kansas City Chiefs being back-to-back Super Bowl champions, trying to do something that no team has ever done by winning 3 in a row in the Super Bowl. They are getting not just everyone's A game, but everyone's A-plus game. And they did it to a tune of 15-1 prior to sitting all of their starters against Denver, and Denver just mollywopped them, right? Mireya Reyes saying, question, so is it the players or the coaches that make the backbone of the team? It's the players. Flatly, right? Like, you have to have, at least in my opinion, I'll get to that in just a second, Tommy. If not for Joe Burrow, the Chiefs will be going for 4 straight Super Bowls right now in all likelihood. Yeah, that's true. That is very, very true. Back to this question from Mireya, right? Is it the players or the coaches that give the team the backbone? And I think it's a little bit of both, right? But we can't think of the backbone in the singular. We have to think of the backbone in the actual physiology of it, where it's made up by a bunch of different vertebrae, right? But the main point is that you have to have a player, a captain on the team that the team respects. And it has to be multiples of these captains on the team that the team respects. Whenever you look at a team's makeup, right? You look at the Tom Brady-led New England Patriots. It was Tom Brady. And then you look at whenever he goes to Tampa Bay, it was Tom Brady. There was an aura about him as a player where those guys wanted to play their best for him. Tom Brady leaves New England, and it's all Bill Belichick. And the wheels don't fall off right away. But you see the team saying, how do we win without Tom Brady? Obviously, the coaching staff has a phenomenal job in being able to lay out. How do I put this? I'm a firm believer in leaders aren't born leaders. Leaders are forced to be leaders. And if you're not the leading type, your team isn't going to follow you the way that they should, right? Dak Prescott, to me, has a lot that he's got to make up following the whole thing where he's on the sideline and he's saying, we effing suck. Got it, terrible body language, doing all that stuff, doing like that. Mireya saying, do you have an Andy Reid without Mahomes, and do you have Mahomes without Reid? Yes. Andy Reid was already a Hall of Fame coach prior to going to Kansas City. All Kansas City did was win him his first Super Bowl and solidify that he was going to be a great coach. Patrick Mahomes, again, I'm a Texas Tech fan. You can see it right there. I'm a Texas Tech fan. I got to watch a lot of Patrick Mahomes games, and even up at ESPN, I'm saying he's the best player coming out of this draft, hands down. Whoever gets Patrick Mahomes is getting themselves a transcendent type player. I don't know if he, and this is the thing, right? Like, he would have been great. Like, if you put Patrick Mahomes right now on the Cincinnati Bengals, he's getting just as much, if not more, touchdowns and yards and passes because he's just a different kind of beast. He and Joe Burrow are 1A and 1B in my mind, right? I don't know if Andy Reid, though, let me rephrase that. I firmly believe that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are a marriage made in heaven, just like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Two guys that were constantly looked over, two guys that no one really had a lot of faith in. I'm going back to Belichick and Brady, right? Belichick leaving the Browns, really bad career with the Browns. Not great with the Jets. One day leaves the Jets, gets to New England. No one knows how it's going to be. He's just going to be a placeholder until New England gets a better coach. Tom Brady, a 6th-round draft pick, a bunch of quarterbacks drafted ahead of him. That chip on the shoulder, where you have another guy with a chip on their shoulder or another person with a chip on your shoulder, there's something about getting two like-minded people together that brings out the best in each other. I believe that Andy Reid brings out the best in Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes brings out the best in Andy Reid, right? It's a marriage made together. But Andy Reid was still a really good coach prior to getting Patrick Mahomes, and I firmly believe that Patrick Mahomes would still be a top-tier quarterback without Andy Reid. Look at what he's doing in Kansas City with literally Travis Kelce as his only weapon. His only weapon for the last 3 years has been Travis Kelce. You can say now they're starting to get, a running game with Isaiah Pacheco, but the one thing that they can count on, and everyone knows it's coming, is Mahomes to Kelce, and you still cannot stop it. It was the same thing with Brady to Gronk, right? You know it's coming, but you still cannot stop it because they are bringing out the best in each other. It's such a symbiotic relationship that it's hard for me to say that one thing is the entire backbone. Your backbone needs to be made up of a bunch of vertebrae, and all those vertebrae need to be in line, right? As someone that has back problems and back spasms, I know what it's like whenever something's wrong with your back. You have to be able to have everyone in line and everyone understanding what the role is and everyone trusting one another. The second you lose that trust, which is what you see with teams like the Dallas Cowboys, it becomes extremely difficult to overcome. Medusa Design saying, yeah, look exactly at Bill. I just think like the scenario with Bill Belichick was that it was time to go, right? Coaches are always going to get more praise and more criticism than what I think that they deserve, right? They were talking about the New England Patriots yesterday on the other show that I was a part of as well. And They said it's coaching. It's coaching, it's coaching, it's coaching, it's coaching, it's coaching whenever your team gets penalties. The coach isn't the one on the field. The coach isn't the one who's listening to the count and doesn't get the count right or has the nerves in their system, right? Like it's the player. And you can be in practice all you want, right? Everyone says this all the time. I'm old school, so I'm going to go back to this. Shaquille O'Neal, right, at the free throw line in practice was a 90% free throw shooter. In practice, a 90% free throw shooter. But in the games, it drastically dropped down. You can be great in practice where the coach can create the environment for you. But what do you have whenever you get out on the field, right? It's on the second the product is on the field in the live game, it's on the players. You can have a great practice. You can have a great game plan. But the second you get those jitters, we see it with the Dallas Cowboys all the time, that offensive line, right? Little getting out of step a little bit here and there. It ain't the coach that's telling them when to hike the ball. It's you should know this play by now. We're 19 games into the season. We've done OTAs. We went all the way through the preseason. We've done all these things. How are you still getting these penalties? It's not on coaching. It's on the player. Because at that level, you can't just be like, go give me 1,000 push-ups, because the Players Association doesn't allow things like that. So it's such a symbiotic relationship that everything has to fire off on all cylinders, or else the wheels fall off. Once the coach loses the locker room, like what we've seen in Dallas, once the coach loses the locker room, then it's time to move on. That's what happened in New England. That's what happened with Gerard Mayo in New England. But it's just Medusa Design saying the coach doesn't have anything if he doesn't have the players. And I'll say the exact same thing too, right? Like, the players don't have anything if they don't have a game plan. It's not like the players need to know what the game plan is. The coaches need to have a good game plan to begin with. And if the game plan isn't great, the coach has to be willing to adjust. It's whenever you get egos fighting with one another that it's so difficult to grow together, right? Like again, the success of each other is predicated off of the success of each other. It's again, the Spider-Man meme, symbiosis, whatever you want to call it. The coach needs to have the best out of his players, and the players need to have the best out of their coach. And it takes more than just one small thing. And that's what I notice a lot in sports, especially the high school levels, the lower levels like that, is once there's that one small thing that goes wrong, everything goes to crap, right? You have to be willing to get past the bad times, stick with what might be, and hope for the best. If you go into the game and you think to yourself, oh, my quarterback's crap, I'm not going to win these games. That's the mindset the Dallas Cowboys could have had, but they rallied around Cooper Rush. They win as many games as they did to quote-unquote salvage the season, but they just didn't have enough, right? Mireya Reyes saying, so why are Cowboys fans blaming coaches, general managers? I don't even necessarily know if I could say it's the Cowboys fans. I think that's such a compounded question because, again, like, the message becomes numb after a while, right? Jerry Jones has been the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys for almost 40 years. And every now and then the message has to change. That's what it's like in coaching staffs, right? Is the message has to change. Why they're blaming Mike McCarthy? He's not getting the best out of Dak Prescott. But also you have to question now, is Dak Prescott giving his best to this team? He's a $60 million player. Is he playing like a $60 million player? He's getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes, more than Joe Burrow, more than Josh Allen. Is he living up to that standard? And the answer to that is no, right? Like on both sides, right? Mike McCarthy isn't getting the best out of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott isn't getting the best out of maybe Mike McCarthy because the play calls are a little weird. It's just every now and then the message falls deaf and you have to move on. To say that they're always blaming, though, is, like I don't talk in absolutes, so always is a weird one for me. But yes, like a lot of the times it's we'll blame the coach, we'll blame this and that because it's easier to move on from a coach than it is to move on from a player. Even if you trade a player, the amount of money that they're being paid, you don't necessarily get rid of the whole contract. It equals dead cap space, and we can go all in that stuff. Mireya saying hope is not a strategy. I'll go with that as well. I firmly believe that hope is not a strategy. But without hope, you don't get the best out of it, right? Like every single one of us at one point in time, you have to start somewhere. The seed is hope. Action is the cultivating of that hope, right? Like whenever I decided I wanted to do radio or I wanted to do any of this stuff, the seed was the hope that I was good enough to be able to, one, focus on going to school, handle 3 jobs at one time while going to school, and maybe just maybe get something out of it, right? Like that was my hope. But it was up to me to put the work in to cultivate that, right? Whenever you plant a seed, you're planting that seed with hope. But if you don't do the work to grow that seed, nothing's coming out of it, right? So to me, hope isn't the strategy. Hope is the first step. The rest of the work is what gets you to grow. Mireya saying the seed is the want. No, the fruit from the seed is the want. I am planting this seeds in hope that it grows. I need to put out what I need to grow so that I can get what I want, right? I say that just because I grew up on a farm, and that's kind of the way that it was always taught to me. And I've always kind of felt that kind of way, right? Like the seed is the hope. The work is what you're doing to get what you want, which is ultimately the fruits from the seed, right? The same thing whenever you go hunting. You're hoping to find what it is that you're hunting for. You're going to put in the work that you need to do in order to end that thing's life, skin it, do all the stuff you got to do to it to get what you want, which is the food. Mireya saying, no, that's the outcome. Want is the outcome. You get what you want from the hope that was planted. Exactly. Yeah, fruit is the outcome because the outcome is what you want. Like maybe there's nomenclature issues here, something of that nature, but you want the outcome. You don't want the seed. The seed isn't what you want. The seed is anywhere you like. The seed is the hope, right? Like the want is I want that. How can I get that? Oh, I have to plant this seed. The want is the outcome. Yes, they are the same. At least in my opinion, we can disagree on that, but the seed is not the want. The want is what comes out of the seed from the outcome of the work, right? Like I just like that's the way that I believe it. If you believe it a different way, I think all we're doing here is fighting over nomenclature, and that's just not the way that it should be. Mireya saying or Medusa Design saying y'all is too early. I'm confused. Ha ha ha. Right. Tommy Kanata saying, I'm an equal opportunity blamer. They all get the smoke. And then Mireya saying that's a whole, or Tommy saying that's a whole different can of worms, Mireya. You have to be a fan to understand. And I think that that's the thing, right? Is everyone wants to look at a fan base and point fingers and say, oh, this fan base does this fan base does that. One of the questions that I got, because again, I put out on Facebook, like, what are questions you want me to answer on tomorrow's show on Friday? One of the questions that I got is why do Cowboys fans still support the Dallas Cowboys? This is coming from a Minnesota Vikings fan, a team that has had 0 Super Bowl wins and hasn't been to a Super Bowl since 1977. If you were going to question why fans of teams are fans of teams because that team loses and your team is a loser, you're answering your own question. Why are you a fan of that team? Right? Medusa saying, so who's the seed? The players? No. Right? Like, I think what it is it kind of went off the rails a little bit. I'll explain it the way that I say it. Mireya, if you want, you can kind of type out how you want to put it. To me, you have 3 things, right? And I'm just talking about life in general. I'm not talking about the players. I'm not talking about sports or anything of that nature. You start off with hope. I hope I can do this. This is my dream, right? Hopes and dreams, same thing. You plant that seed. But if you don't do the work to get the seed to grow, you don't get what you want, which is the outcome of it, right? If I just said, I want to be on radio, and I sat there and I didn't do anything to be on radio, I walked into KTEP at UTEP without any idea who to talk to, waited for the on-air light to turn off, met D. Wu and said, I'm going to work here. What do you need from me so that I can work here? And I was told flat out, we don't hire. It's got to be a volunteer base. And that summer, May 26, 2015, from that day all the way until August, I was a volunteer daily at an NPR station, just learning how to do it. If I give up after 1 day or 2 days or a week or whatever, I don't get to go to ESPN. I don't get to go to 600 ESPN here in El Paso. I don't get to do the QView traffic. I don't get to do this, right? I had to put in the work because this was my want, to be able to say that I am an AM radio guy, because AM signals go into the clouds and they bounce around throughout space, and maybe, just maybe, my mom can hear me up in the heavens. That was literally my motivation to do this. That was my want. The seed was the hope of, I hope I can do this. The work was putting in the volunteer time at an NPR station, working at KLAQ 117 straight days, sometimes 3 different shifts in 1 day. That was the work, because my want was to sit here and be able to do this. That is the outcome. There we go. Talking regular gardening works for me. There we go. Right? And that's why I said, like, again, I grew up super different, even though I grew up here in El Paso, right in the middle of Socorro, right? Like, we had a farm. I had to do every year. We're going out there and cultivating and you know, tilling the land and doing all that stuff. And that was the way that I kind of understood it. Is my want is, I want to have food, so I've got to plant this seed. And I've got to do the work to get my want, right? That's the way that I've always looked at it. Maybe, like, again, I think what it is just semantics that was being played there, but that's the way that I believe that it all works. Tommy Canonsa put up a couple of messages here as well, saying Mike McCarthy can't do either. He can't game plan or adjust, right? So whenever it comes to, like, watching the games, I think that's what it is you can see a coach, and you can see a coach that understands how to adjust and understands whenever the game plan isn't working, that it's time to move on to something else. And I think that that's what the Dallas Cowboys fans, if we're talking about, like, why are they complaining now? I mean, I think that's what they're complaining about, right? Is there's no adjustment here. We see the team is struggling doing this, but they continue to just struggle doing this without changing any little thing. And that's where I think the frustration from fan bases comes from, right? If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you're frustrated because you saw your team last year score 70 points in 1 game, and this year they struggled to even get to 20. But it's because the game plan has been figured out. So it's a game of cat and mouse. Who's going to do what? Who's going to do what? And how are they going to be able to overcome it? And you just don't see that happening with certain coaches. Again, maybe it's ego, maybe it's stubbornness, maybe it's just I don't know how to adjust at this moment. That's what the Dallas Cowboys fan base is dealing with right now. You have a general manager that's also the owner, so that's never going to change until that man passes away. So you're stuck with that. And you can complain about Jerry Jones being the GM all you want, but it's like screaming into the abyss, right? The Dallas Cowboys fan base with their coaching staff, the same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles and their coaching staff. You see successes. Nick Sirianni, the only coach in Eagles history to take their team to the playoff 4 years in a row. But you know that if he loses in the playoffs, he's done. Just because you sit back and you watch what he does, and he doesn't have that whole locker room support. And again, that's a symbiotic relationship, right? Like, the coaching staff needs the players, and the players need the coaching staff. Again, just my opinions on this. I'm always open to the discourse as well. But just a design saying, dude, that was the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Your mom is so proud of you. I hope. Like, that's the thing, right? Is there's always that hope. I hope she is. Planted the seeds to do all of the stuff that I could do. Tommy Canazzo saying his son was worse, Mike. His son is even worse. I don't know. Remember, his son's the reason why the Dallas Cowboys drafted Zach Martin and not Johnny Manziel. We're talking about a completely different team. If the Dallas Cowboys had drafted Johnny Manziel over Zach Martin a decade or so ago. I think I actually have a Johnny Manziel Cleveland Browns jersey just because I was like, Johnny Manziel, Money Manziel, baby. All right. Remember, everybody, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33. Save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. And we are brought to you by our friends over at www.myhappynuts.com. You can use promo code Mike Tipton, or you can visit www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton and save on all of the different products they have, from the big package down to their male grooming kits, shampoos, soaps, whatever you need for your male grooming needs. If you got that man in your life, make sure he's taking care of himself. Dudes, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. You want to be as fresh and so clean, like Outkast said. You don't want to be Dirty Diana from Michael Jackson. You want to be so fresh, so clean, like Outkast, like Andre and Big Boy. www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton to save today. Tommy Canazzo saying that he's also the reason we don't do poop emoji in free agency this year and every year. So in and out. Adrian Zamudio saying good morning. Good morning to you, Adrian Zamudio. Hope that you all are having a fantastic time here as we are live on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Again, the Cowboys can't do much in free agency because they don't have much wiggle room with the salary cap. We shall see how the Dallas Cowboys navigate all of that stuff coming up here in just a little bit. Within the maybe 45 seconds that I have, I want to go over some of the playoff games that we have here coming up in the weekend. We have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Houston Texans. The Los Angeles Chargers are favored in that game. I believe, though, the Houston Texans are going to find a way to win that game. Then, of course, we have the Baltimore Ravens, a 10-point favorite over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe that Pittsburgh will cover the spread, but I also believe that Baltimore will win. Yes, Tommy, I am saying Baltimore is the better team. Then, of course, Denver at Buffalo. Buffalo's going to get the win there. Green Bay over Philadelphia, in my mind. The Washington Commanders fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Minnesota Vikings beat the Los Angeles Rams. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. I love the back and forth. We're going to be back tomorrow. Questions from y'all, I'm going to answer them. I'll put out the link for y'all to be a part of it as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. And for our friends over on Roku, we'll see you next week.